Hello everybody, nice to meet you. Thank you for joining our webinar today. Today we will be running through two of our products. We're going to spend the first 25 minutes, half an hour or so running through the first, and then we'll spend the final 25 minutes, half an hour or so running through the second. The two products we're going to run through today. So to begin with, we're going to run through our pathology management platform, which works with both EMIS and SystmOne. And then for those of you who are using Docman in EMIS, the second part of the webinar we will run through our Docman automation platform. So we're going to cover both products. Just to reconfirm that, first is our pathology management platform, which automates both EMIS and SystmOne. And in the second half an hour or so, give or take, we'll run through our Docman automation platform, which obviously needs to work with Docman. So my name is James. I will be running the webinar today with my colleague Sanjeev, who will jump in at different points throughout the webinar. We like to run our webinars in a very as interactively as possible. So what I mean by that is, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat. Don't hold back. We do a lot of webinars, and we've been working we've been working a lot we work a lot in primary care, and we know that questions are important because you need to validate how things work. So if you have something pop in your head, please pop it in the chat. We will take pauses. We will go back, answer questions, and go back and forth. So don't hold back. And again, we will share a copy of the recording of the webinar after the presentation as well. It might take half a day or so to get it onto our website, but that'll be done. So, who are we? MyBotGP. So the company is called JIFJAF. We built the MyBotGP range. MyBotGP range is an automated platform purpose built for primary care. We are also an NHS ICT partner, so that does not mean we are NHS. We are not. We are a private UK business. However, it does mean that we're an NHS ICT partner, and we have our own access to our own NHS cloud. That's important because it means our DTACs, DPIAs, all that type of stuff is all locked down, very safe and very secure. All of the MyBotGP range lives in NHS Cloud. This particular tool is now classed as a medical device. It also has a DCB 0129 certification. For those of you that are aware of what that is, we can cover that off a bit later. And we also have a templated DCB 160. But the principle behind this tool essentially is to help you save time at the practice, free clinical capacity. It supports reducing error rates in terms of the clinical side of pathology management interpretation, and to support quicker processing. And there's a number of different ways that it will support you in doing that. This is not a new tool. This tool is being used across the NHS, and we are processing thousands and thousands and thousands of pathology tests a day using MyBotGP. It's self-configurable. So what that means is we are not telling you what rules you need to add to this tool in terms of how you want to validate your pathology tests. That is up to you. What we've built is a conduit that will enable you to do that yourself. And obviously we help with the configuration, which doesn't actually take too long. Principle is that we ensure that clinicians and partners and so on will only see the pathology tests that they want to see. And we ensure nothing is missed, and that's the principle behind this tool. We manage the interpretation and the management and the processing of normal pathology tests, which includes additional checks on the patient to determine whether, despite being normal from the lab, you still want to continue your exploratory work for that particular patient. Current time savings are approximately 30 minutes a day for every clinician. Unbelievably, that number extrapolates quite quickly, and it helps you improve safety and reduce costs and focus on more complex work and free capacity at the practice level. Now, for our business cases, what we do, we essentially base things on a list of about 8,500 patients. So I'm just adjusting the size of this slide. Hopefully that fits okay. Sam, does the slide look okay? Yeah, okay. So this is based on an 8,500 list. We just use that because it's an average, pretty much average size, well, maybe a tad larger, but an average-ish size in the UK at the moment. And unbelievably, an 8,500 list will receive approximately 200 pathology tests every single day. Every day, which works out just under 62,500 pathology tests a year. Now, if you have 6,000 patients or 10,000 patients or 20 or 4, that number does increase at approximately the same percentage. There might be slight changes in terms of the demographics for patients in some specific areas. You might get a tad more or a tad fewer, but it's pretty accurate. High-level snapshot of this tool, it can give back 16 weeks of clinical capacity allocated to this task based on 5 partners over a year on an 8,500 list, and the approximate cost saving, clinical cost for that is £50,000. So what do we do? I'm going to run through the tool in a moment. I'll run through the logic of the tool. I'm also going to pull up a spreadsheet which has over 181 different pathology tests on that spreadsheet that MyBotGP is being used to manage. We do have some clients as high as 200, and you can see exactly what it does. In principle, the whole point of MyBotGP is to free you to focus on important work and stop you from having to see stuff that, quite frankly, you don't need to see. Because something else has dealt with it for you. So when you cast your eye over something, it's because you want to see it, not because you have to see it, or it's because the way it arrives at the practice. So path tests sit in 3 buckets: normal, no action. Obviously, some path tests come back from labs, and you do not need to do additional checks on those path tests. You're happy to just file them. You don't invariably, sometimes you don't even need to see them. You're just happy to file them. Other path tests come back from labs. Whilst the lab says they're normal, you might agree or disagree with the range, or the patient may have a health condition or be on medication, or that path test could have increased or decreased from the previous one, which means actually, yeah, the lab says it's normal, but you don't want that to disappear from your inbox. You still want to see it because you want to continue your work with the patient. And then abnormal. So you have your 3 buckets: normal, no action, don't need to see it; normal, requires further investigation. If you spot a health condition or medication, then you might want to see it. If it's not there, that can also be filed normal, no action, and you don't need to see it. And abnormal. And our tooling looks after the initial 2 buckets: normal, no action. Normal path test requires further investigation, can be filed or flagged. And that's where the time saving comes from. Obviously, manual processing, variabilities in approach. Lots of our clients like the tool because they can enforce standardization. They can set up bundles of different rules on all of the different path tests, and the machine does it for them in the background. It runs every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and you can see if you base on an average list of 8,500 patients, up to 30 minutes a day works out 16 weeks and 95 days of clinical capacity. Now, some of you might say we spend 20 minutes a day, so you're still saving 70 days, 75 days, or 14 weeks. It's a lot of time. People aren't very good at recognizing how long things take. We just work and take it for granted, and then 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 20 minutes somewhere else. It adds up. So this is a robust time-saving safety layer for EMIS and SystmOne that automatically vets all results. You define the rules, files or flags. Okay, still got people dropping into the webinar. Okay, so this is just a high-level slide. This is actually the detail around the slide, the rules, which we'll cover off in a moment, and then I'll show you. We'll run through some examples of path tests, and then we'll take a pause for some questions after that as well. So how does it work? So MyBotGP is an automated platform that's fully in your control. It lives in NHS Cloud, DTAC, DPIA, it's a medical device. It's going to use EMIS and SystmOne in exactly the same way as a person. It's going to read your path tests, essentially. It's going to pick up your pathology tests. It's going to validate the lab ranges. Some of our clients agree and they disagree with some lab ranges, and they can supersede those lab ranges. It can go back into the patient record, as we said before. It can pick up warnings on the path reports. There's lots of path tests that don't use ranges. They might use keywords. Detected, not detected, positive, negative, so on and so forth, or it might have a range and a warning. It can also pick up the warning on the path test as well, and then it will either file it without you seeing it because you've decided you don't need to see that, because you know in advance of receiving that path test, you don't need to see it, or it will say, no, this has come through as a normal, but this particular patient has other issues, and I want you to leave that because I need to continue my work on them. And then if you want to send a text message, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. It's completely under your control. This tool is being super popular at practice level, starting to see lots of PCNs make acquisitions as well, because if you do have a cluster of practices in a PCN and everyone wants to set their own rules, you are able to do that. And that's one of MyBotGP's big unique selling points. No one is going to tell you what rules to add. Obviously, there's lots of similarities, but we've also seen some differences in approach, which are pretty important, and you want to make sure you can deliver on. So here are the rules. Super quick, as we have about 35 minutes for this, or 30 minutes, so we can stop for questions. Range control. So MyBotGP, you can agree with lab ranges, or you can supersede the lab ranges. So lots of our clients, or some of our clients, supersede lab ranges for some tests. So what I mean by that is they may not agree with some of the ranges that come back as a fail for full blood count. Some of the subtests, they might say, well, in our opinion, we're happy to change a couple of the subtests, and as long as it doesn't sit outside of those, I don't necessarily need to see that. So you are able to do that. You can also supersede lab ranges, stuff like prostate, full blood count, all different things. MyBotGP can pick up a path test, and you can say to it, every time you see this path test, I want you to check and see if a patient has had a previous test. If they have, I want to put a tolerance in there of a 5% or 10% increase or decrease before flagging. So you can set tolerances, and you can combine these rules as well. So you may change the range and set a percentage increase or decrease. So condition check, MyBotGP can pick up a path test, and I'll show you an example of that. It could see a normal where you've agreed with the lab or superseded the lab. It's up to you. But then, as we touched on before, go back in the patient record and say, well, actually, that's come through as normal from the lab, but that patient might have prostate cancer, and it might have a normal, cover that off, a normal prostate, but they've had cancer, so that needs to be flagged. It can cross-reference medication, so you can check for medication. Obviously, you can tailor path tests in terms of age and gender. It can read the pathology test report. Touched on before, lots of path tests may have ranges. They might have warnings or keywords on there. HbA1c, does it say diabetes or pre-diabetes is an argument, is an example of that. So path tests, a lab could say, yep, range is fine, but we've seen pre-diabetes. You might say to MyBotGP, flag those ones for me. I want to see them or not. Obviously, you can exclude patients if you wish. So you can easily omit specific patients. You drop in their NHS number and say to MyBotGP, I just don't want you looking at that person, and it will do that. And there's a super comprehensive safety layer in terms of audit logs, audit reports. So every day you'll be sent a copy of what MyBotGP's done that day, and then within the actual tool, you'll have a full comprehensive breakdown of everything that it's touched, in addition to keeping your existing audit logs within EMIS or SystmOne, because they don't disappear. So you can very easily see what it's done and what it hasn't done. This is a really small image. I'll make it a little bit bigger. That's the user interface, really easy to configure, literally tick boxes and drop down menus. Doesn't take more than 30 seconds to add your particular bespoking to a path test. You just click, and again, one of our tech leads will do that with you to get you up and running. So let's say, for example, this is a liver function test for those of you who've got super good vision and can read liver function test. Let's say, for example, that's come back from your lab. MyBotGP will suck out all of your own lab ranges and the lab test names, so you don't have to worry about where the ranges came from. They will be your lab. First thing it does is suck them up. You would look at that and say, am I happy to file based on that? If you were happy with the lab ranges and you didn't want to add any additional checks or rules, you just click File for Normal Report and it will file it for you. Or you could look at that and say, no, actually, I want to change some of the ranges. So you just literally click, change the range, press save. Or you could say, check against the previous test result for one of the subtests or the main test. You just click yes and put your percentage. And then on the left-hand side, what you can see is the keyword. Now, keywords is what we loosely call any word. So that's where you would write in a medication name or a health condition or a warning on a pathology test report. So you can just write in what to look for. And then obviously, if you want to send a text, tick that box. If you don't, and then it will file directly within SystmOne and EMIS. This is just a high-level snapshot. So we've still got people joining. This is a high-level snapshot of some examples of rules. We've put that in blue because these are just examples. You can bespoke them yourself differently. It's just an example. And what I'd like to do here, before we pause for questions, actually, this is around medical device, DCB 02129. Here we've covered time and cost saving. That's based on an 8,500 list. In fact, what I want to do now is I'm going to quickly open up this and then go back to the slide, and then we'll pause for questions in about 5 minutes or so. So what you're looking at here, this essentially has come out of one of our clients. So they've decided to give MyBotGP permission to look after 181 different pathology tests. And here's the 181 different pathology tests. And what you can see here are the rules, the vetting rules that they've applied to those tests. So here you'll see the test that they've said, don't worry, just file. Don't need to run additional checks. And you will also see the path test where they've said, yeah, if the lab says it's normal, we still need to double check something before we dismiss that. I'd like that flagged, so that needs to be in my inbox so I can see it. Okay, so, and that's why they're all green. When you buy the tool and it's configured, this will all be purple because it sucks it up, and then you go one by one, you just add the rules, and it's quite quick. So what you're looking at here, path test name, subtest name, gender, age, only check for normal results, ranges from the lab, check against the previous test result, keywords to look for. Remember, keywords are what we said could relate to anything. Filing strings, comments and filing strings. So this essentially is the other rules which are here. Okay, and these can be combined. So you've got your ranges, agree with the lab or supersede the lab, check against previous test results, condition checks, medication checks, age, gender, warnings on the path report, exclude patients, safety netting. So top test here, again, for those of you that I've met with previously or our team have met with previously, this isn't a test you're going to get thousands of, but it's just the first one, so it's nice to give us an example. What you're looking at here is 24-hour urine sodium, 24-hour sodium test, subtest name, 24-hour urine sodium. This particular client doesn't believe they need to check, doesn't believe that gender or age have any bearing on validating this result. They're happy to go with the lab ranges, I believe. These are 27 to 287. So what they're saying is, as long as that comes through within 27 to 287, they don't really need to see that. It can just be filed. However, unless before you do that, have a look in the problem page. They've told it to look for the words diabetes or chronic kidney disease. So they've essentially said, don't worry about previous test result, happy with those ranges. But if this patient has diabetes or chronic kidney disease, I don't want you to file that. I want to see that patient. Another example here is prostate. Most of our clients supersede their lab ranges. Not all of them. They supersede the lab ranges here. In what you can see, this particular client has superseded the lab ranges. They've put 5 age ranges, which are here. 18 to 39, ranging all the way up to 70 to 150. And then they've adjusted the ranges here, 2.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, and 6.5. So they're essentially saying, ignore the RAB, use these ranges, and only show me people of that age group that fail the new range. However, as the safety check, before doing that, we want you to go back in the patient record. Has the patient had prostate cancer or metastatic cancer? If they have, that's not for you to process. I want you to leave it, to skip that and leave that for clinical review. Other clients several years ago used a different approach. Lots of them said, yeah, agree with lab, fail is a fail. Even if it's a pass, I want you to check in the patient record, see if they've had a test before. If they have, has it gone up by more than 10%? If it has, fail it. So we don't see that so much now. This tends to be what most people do. But I guess I'm just sort of saying how you can bespoke it. HbA1c, obviously vitamin D. We've got a vitamin D insufficiency index that can be used as well to send messages out. HbA1c here, this particular client said 20 to 41. Again, keyword, check for diabetes, pre-diabetes. So our clinical safety officer is a UK practicing clinician, which I think it's important to share on here. He is who wrote our DCB 129, and we've also taken the time to build out a templated DCB 160 to share as well, which is around usage, which we share with all clients as well, so that you can make sure you get best use out of the tool in the safest possible way. Excuse me. So you can see here, again, unless you have photographic memory, you're not going to remember all of these, but hundreds of tests, which we'll share. I believe Deandra would have shared this spreadsheet for those of you when you registered already. And these are just examples, and we've got lots of different examples. You can see the keywords used all the way through here as the additional safety. And some of these tests have been, labs have been superseded ranges and stuff. When you acquire the tool, we plug it in, sucks up all your lab ranges. About a week later, you'll book a call with we'll book a call with one of our tech leads. They'll spend about an hour with you on the phone. You'll probably get 40, 50, 60 path tests live in one sitting. Most clients are happy with that in the first sitting. Let it run for a week, get used to it working. And they either continue to add the additional path tests themselves because it's quite easy to do, or we book another call and you add the remaining ones on. So just before we stop for questions, we'll just come back to here. That's the interface. It is just drop down menus, some examples, stuff around business cases. Again, lots of our clients, some say they want it for additional safety, others want it for standardization, others want it to free clinical capacity, others want it for any combination thereof. But in principle, if you're targeting about 30 minutes per clinician, based on a 500 list, you can see how time stacks up really fast. Pricing is pretty straightforward with our tooling. We try and keep it as lean as possible. Unlimited pathology tests, unlimited volumes. We don't charge more if you have more path tests or if you're a bigger site and you get thousands more. It's a subscription model. We charge very simply 749 and then list times 30 pence. And then there's an NHS cloud cost in addition to that, which again, depending on the size of your practice, is either 5 pence a patient, 6 or 7 pence. But based on this 8,500 list we use as an example, 3,887 plus VAT. Okay, so that feels like a good place to pause for a moment. So I will do that, and then I'll ask Sanj. Has there any questions?
Yeah, there's one question.
Let me have a look at that. Do you want to read the question out? Oh.
Yeah, okay. So apologies if you're about to cover this, but can I take into account a patient being pregnant or thyroid cancers? For example, CSH result may be different to the average patient, not normal for this patient cohort, but the system may file. Can it review the existing patient conditions situation to file based on individual patients? Shall I pick this one up? Yeah. So yes, the answer is to this and to all path tests. In terms of pregnancy, no. However, you can check for previous conditions within the problem page. So you can look for an absence of cancers and prostate cancers, etc., and so forth, and diabetes, as James mentioned in some of those other path tests. But so yes, you can do checks within the problem page, and yes, so that's it basically. Yeah. So the answer is yes to that question.
Okay, well, it looks like we have another question. Do you want to pop the question in the chat? Is that possible?
Oh, okay.
Or you can, well, seeing as you're speaking already, but please carry on.
Yeah, sorry, I just joined a bit late, so I just want to ask you one question because I joined late. I saw your the way you filter the results. Is this system compatible with EMIS without Docman?
So this tool is for our pathology management platform. Yes, it doesn't, because it's Path. It doesn't need Docman. So we're gonna show another product after this, which is for letter filing, which is for Docman. This platform can be used in both EMIS and SystmOne, and it will use them in the same way that a person does. So it's a long way of saying yes. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you.
No, pleasure. Any other questions? Again, I know we said it at the beginning. We do mean it. We welcome questions. We think they're good learning. Am I is my Sorry, Sanj, say that again.
Do you want to share your screen to show the?
Yeah.
It's just easier to.
Oh, got them. Okay, fine. Okay, so questions are coming in.
Yeah.
1 second. Oh well. Okay. So we'll get through these super quick. Here, do prices include VAT? That one's plus VAT. How often is? I'll go right to the top here. Yes, the meeting will be recorded. So, do you want to go on mute? Sorry, how often is cost applied? It's an annual subscription. So unlimited path tests, unlimited volumes. Can we email? Yes, we will email. Does it cross-check looking for pre-existing conditions? Yes. Just confirming again, you have all shared care agreements in place with ICBs. We have DTACs, DPIAs, data sharing agreements. MyBotGP lives in an NHS cloud environment. If the lab changes the values and if MyBotGP is set up to accept that lab value, yes, there is a notification in the platform of lab changes. Cloud is 7.6 or 5 pence based on the size of the practice. Can you describe the nature of your SystmOne integration? Is it using IM1 route in real time or near real time? We don't use IM1. MyBotGP is used as a user. Okay, I'm being told that there's some other questions further down. Well, Sanj, do you want to carry on? 1 second here. Okay, I found the next questions. What about missed results, indemnity complaints? Okay, I'm with you now. Okay, fine, thank you.
Yeah,
okay. Okay, sorry, there were some other questions from a previous webinar, so for some extra learnings. Missed results and complaints?
Yeah, so missed results, again, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but where a patient is out of range or not within the rule set that you've set within the platform, they will be skipped and left within the inbox for a GP to review. So the only reason why a patient is not filed is because it's out of range or the rules did not apply. So that's why a patient test results would be skipped. With respect to indemnity and complaints.
Yeah, I can do that one. Yeah, I mean, essentially the tool has all of the correct certifications. Remute Sanj. With medical device DCB 129, we've got templated DCB 160, so the boxes have been ticked. In principle, the responsibility on this tool is on the practice, whilst we do help you configure the rules, to set the correct ranges. So if you've set incorrect ranges, that is the practice responsibility. And if our tool is not able to do as we say it can do, then that will be our responsibility. So there's quite a clean line in the same way that you review them manually and make decisions. It's up to you to put the correct ranges in. We will support you with that. MyBotGP as an additional safety will suck up your lab ranges directly from the lab, so you're not having to second guess or try and Google what your lab ranges are and complete it. It will suck them up directly from the lab. It will present them to you, and then you set the ranges, and then and that's how that works. Yeah, you asked if it can check. Another question is, you mentioned that we can ask it to check the problem list for conditions. Can it be set up to check patients' medical summary page rather than the problem list, or only specifically the problem list recognized with the bot? Zanj, on that one?
Yeah, problem page.
Okay.
So it's just a problem page. Yeah.
Okay, so tooling will only read from the problem page. What is NHS Cloud? I'm not familiar with it. Essentially, it's essentially, and it's like a cloud environment. It's like where your machines are hosted. It's difficult to explain. It's essentially an NHS environment where your machines are clouded. It's where your kit should live. Follow up on my question earlier. It sounds like you're able to retrieve the patient outcomes via an API. Okay. To then identify the patient thyroid cancer, therefore we expect THR level to be different but still okay to file. Sanj, sure that?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not via an API. but we are able to read the patient problem page and essentially exclude or include keywords, and then base actual ranges on that on those keywords. So again, cancer, etc. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Lots of questions around integration. So MyBotGP is an automated platform. So the best way, it uses EMIS or SystmOne as a person does. So it does not require APIs. Is the short answer to that question. I think that's from Mark. It reads the screen and it will use the system that it's automating as a person would. It looks around and then it clicks the buttons in the appropriate place. So we're coming up to the end of the questions, and then we'll skip up. We'll just get through these super quickly, and then we'll move on to the Docman platform. So another question here: our system will pull radiology results under pathology results on SystmOne. Does it deal with radiology results, same as smear results and bowel cancer screening results? Sam, do you want to take that?
Yeah, 100%. It pulls the full spectrum of your pathology categories, all your radiology, CT scans, X-rays, etc. However, I would caveat that to say nationally, most aren't using our tools to file those. It's all of the other sort of 200 or path tests. But yes, it does pull them, and if you can again decide on a few keywords or a collection of keywords, you can file them. So that, yeah.
Thank you. What happens if the patient sees more than one clinician for the same results when they decide on different result ranges? Well, it's an interesting question. So that's up to the practice. That's up to the practice to decide. And this is where what we see practices starting to enforce some levels of standardization in approach to what path test they add in what they class needs further investigation and what they don't. And remember, this tool is to file normals to valid, and in addition to validating a normal is normal. Something around RPA and SystmOne, some contractual stuff. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you for that. What we will do now is we will show our Docman automation tool, and then if we have any other questions after that, we will cover those as well. So right, let's go here. Okay, good stuff. So now we're moving on to the second product. This is our Docman automation tool. The principle behind this tool is to look after your letters for you. The way we like to start off these presentations when we talk about our tool is to tell you straight off the bat, this tool will not read a letter and make a medical decision and action that medical decision. That's not what this tool is designed to do. There's only one tool that can do that at the moment and action it and file it, and that's a human being, and we believe that will be a human for quite some time. There are tools available that will hazard a guess at what they think it is, but they will still pass it to a human being who then needs to make a decision and agree or disagree, and they are anywhere from 10 to 15 times the cost of our platform. But in reality, they're hazarding a guess and passing it to a person. The piece of the puzzle that we have cracked with this tool is everything else. And I'll explain, and we'll run through with you what this means now. Our tooling works 7 days a week. This particular tool has a DCB 0129 certification. It's also delivered from NHS Cloud, which means very secure DTAC DPIAs. Some of this we can skip, as it was in the previous slide. This is just a short slide around time, perception of time. As I touched on at the beginning of the other presentation, we're not very good at reconciling how long things take. 15 minutes a day doesn't seem like that much time. 5 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. But actually 15 minutes a day works out to 91.25 hours, which is over 2 weeks for one person. 30 minutes is 4.5 weeks for one person. So you can imagine with something like letter management, where there are multiple people spending a lot longer than 15 minutes a day, how much time is actually eaten up by this particular task. Business cases here. 125 letters a day based on this 8,500 list. That means 39,000 letters are passing through an 8,500 list practice. That figure is quite accurate, and it scales up and scales down depending on the size of the practice. Roughly 203 days of time allocated to that task at practice level. It's very time consuming. In its current format, every letter has to be manually validated, double checked, Docman template completed, and filed by a human being before you get to the letters that actually need to see someone who needs to make a clinical decision on that letter or action on that letter. So before you've actually even worked out which letters need to go to specific people, 39,000 of them have to get onto the system, validated and filed, and that takes time. Obviously, there are errors, holidays, sick leave, recruitment challenges, very, very busy practices, routing errors. It's a challenging task. So what our tooling does is essentially does that for you, files all letters that you don't need to see, so you don't need to see them anymore, does it by itself, and triages the remaining letters that do need, it will code the letter name, and then it will triage the appropriate letters to the remaining letters to the appropriate people. Think of it as a Docman super user. It can still use tasks, templates, all of the stuff that you've built out at practice level, because all of you will have a different letter flow in terms of where you want your letters to go to and who you want to see your letters. And MyBotGP will essentially bend to be able to do that for you. So you're going to have this massive engine at the front of the practice. It's going to grab all your letters, going to validate the patients on all of your letters. It's going to get them all onto the system. It's going to file all the ones that you don't need to see, you won't need to see, and all the remaining ones will be sent where you want them. If you want them in folders, or to triage usual GP, or set tasks, or through templates, MyBotGP will do that for you in the background. So it's going to collect all of the letters and emails directly from Docman. It will recognize the letter name, type, hospital, can validate which is the date it needs to see, because obviously some letters have got dates in the top, some in the middle, some in the bottom. So it will be taught to recognize those letters. And it will validate the patient, complete the Docman template by itself. No need for you to have the Docman template open and the letter open at the same time, double checking it and then pressing enter. It will do that by itself. File it as well, and then distribute them appropriately. So think of it as a Docman super user. All Docman functionality is used. If you want to triage to usual GP for appropriate letters, then you can still do that. Nothing is missed. You can still set tasks. We just tell it we will tell it what to do for each individual letter. So it's going to reduce a lot of noise by auto-filing letters you don't need to see. For example, pharmacy letters, for those of you that don't need that to pass through people at the practice, that just need to go to a specific team or person, that can be set. And then the obvious DNAs, 111s, negative retinopathies, all those types of letters, you know in advance of receiving them, you don't need to see them necessarily, they can just be filed. However, there is a small percentage that you may need to see that will have a warning on there. Could be a suicide or attempted suicide. It's able to pick up those warnings, and then a typical logic would be, I don't need to see any of those, file all my 111s unless you see these keywords, and if you do, I want you to push them to this folder or put it through this task, whatever you want done at practice level that you're doing already through Docman, and it will do that in the background. So what it does, depending on your setup, is give the coding team, well, it's going to give the coding team significant amount of time back. For those that are still coding, they can continue to code, but they will only look at letters that they need to code. Other clients have given permission to those teams before engaging with us for many years to take responsibility for some letters and not others, and they will continue to do that. But what they won't have to do in this scenario is grab nearly 40,000 letters a year manually, get them onto the system, validate them, file them. They will just be looking at the ones that they need to look at. This tool also has a super comprehensive audit log. Goes without saying, anything it's touched there will be a snapshot of. So at any point you can see what letters have been filed, haven't filed, test results, where they've gone. In addition to that, you'll still have the ability to run the audit logs within Docman as well. With all of our tooling, we send an email every day to a distribution list at the practice. To whomever wants a copy of that. What generally happens is lots of people say they want that email every day, and then after a week, most people say it's okay, we don't need it, and then we take them off the distribution list, and then there'll be a key person that will have access to that. And then within MyBotGP, if you want a more detailed summary, you can log into that. We've also taken the time to draft a templated DCB 160 for this tool as well, which is around how you would use this tool at practice level, which we share with clients as well, which will save some time in completing that document if you want to. Costing for this is same principle as our pathology management tool. Slightly more, £1,200 more than the pathology management tool for the 8,500 list example, and that's to cover the configuration cost. We will configure your letters for you. So think of it as 1,999 annual subscription, unlimited letters, unlimited volumes, and then your list times 30p. And then the cloud cost, which is essentially the virtual machine it will live in, depends, same principle, 7, 6 or 5p, depending on the number of patients that you have. But this 8,500 list comes in at 5,137 plus VAT. And if you acquire both our products, there is a multi-product discount available. So what I'm going to do now is stop for questions. Put this on. I'll stop sharing so I can see the questions. Okay. Let me see here.
Shall I take them?
Yeah.
Okay. Does the bot recognize missing pages, duplex documents, scan signals? So no, it won't recognize if there's missed pages in the scan. It will assume that they've been scanned, and it will essentially attach the pack of scanned documents against the patient. What date will it pick it up? So again, there are several dates correct. So yes, we would train that together. So you would decide for that letter, like you would train any new person within your team. You would train the bot to pick up event date, exact clinic date, discharge date, appointment date, current date. So the good thing is there are lots of options in selecting and deciding your appropriate event date for that letter. Emails, does it recognize when to convert or not? Highlighted text on an email? No. So again, all NHS mails can be processed and are processed. And again, there would be triaged accordingly. You can select the different departments, folders, and so forth, but it will not, it will not know if there's a highlighted piece of text on that. Does the bot recognize duplicate documents? If yes, how does it process them? So with respect to duplicates, from a compliance perspective, we have to process all of them because quite often there are additional text or pages on the latter part of those documents. So as advice from our CSO, we simply have to file all of them and not a position to delete any of them.
Okay, thanks, Sanjay. It was super quick. Okay, so do you want to?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so thank you. A couple of people logging off, so great. So thank you. So just before we round up, we've actually gone through that really quickly. We allocated a bit of more time to this. I've got another question coming. I was just going to say let's get some more questions in here on either the Path platform or the Docman platform. We can go through all of those now for the next 10 minutes or so for those of you that want to stay, and then we can follow up afterwards with some of the people from the team. So as questions are starting to come in, so we just had a question from Elizabeth. Can it sort pro rata allocations? We are a large GP practice with micro teams. I've worked with Sanjay a long time, and I don't think he understands your question. Oh, you do? Oh, okay. I take that back.
Kind of. We've had that question before. Yeah. Yes, you can. And the way I would do that is, again, the way the tooling is, it's very malleable. So the way, as I understand it, you're wanting to allocate certain numbers of documents per micro team, as I understand. So you can do that to a point whereby through the letter type or the letter classification, allocate that to specific micro teams. There's lots of ways you can cut it up. You can have certain letter types go to a team, a generic team to the usual GP, and so forth. So you can cut it up by letter type, not by amount or numbers of letters coming in the day. Hopefully that answers your question, Elizabeth.
Let's just give it a second, see whether that did answer.
Hopefully it did. So we'll see on that one.
Thanks very much.
Okay, good stuff.
Okay, I'll read. Shall I read them and then you answer them, Sanj? Yeah. So I got them. Okay, so the next one, can it differentiate between an adult and child document? So different actions are required.
Yeah, 100%. So it picks up the DOB and works out from there. You can then also put keywords like child or so forth, and you can signpost letters based on keywords. I think that's one of its strengths in terms of key functionality. So suicide or emergency letters, and if you need to signpost certain letters, you can. So just cherry picking specific keywords, and then it will take it on a different journey with respect to that letter.
Thanks, Sanj. Deborah has asked for a quote. I can share that with you afterwards based on the 12,000 list for both products. And Tom as well. Okay, we'll share those afterwards. Unless Farrell is in the background working those out, we can pop them in the chat, but we'll follow up afterwards. So then we have here, will it take account of any safeguarding flags on the record, as this often changes the outcome? Sanj?
Yeah, so as I understand it, so within the tooling, based on keywords, you can signpost a letter. I think that hopefully answers that to a point, because so there are multiple destinations. As you can place the letters. You can send it to the usual GP. You can send it to different coding teams or different individuals based on looking for specific keywords or safeguarding words, etc. Or the actual letter type. So again, what we do, and this probably applies to everyone, what we normally do is you obviously purchase the product, we scoop up all of your letter types, we pop them on a very simple spreadsheet, and then essentially we look to then we then pre-map every single letter type to a sort of 80% mark. So what do I mean by that? We would then assign the actual event date, we would assign the folders, the departments, the organizations, the clinical code, the descriptions, and then we would leave the final kind of cherry on the top with respect to where you want it to go to yourself. So you may want that letter to go to a usual GP, you may want it to go to a generic coding team, or based on certain safeguarding aspects, you may want to signpost it to a particular GP or team based on specific keywords. That's kind of the approach of how we do that, so we can get you get you up and running very, very quickly with respect to all those letter types. Hopefully that's a very long-winded, but again, just want to sort of share that with everyone and how we get you sort of onboarded and up and started very quickly.
Okay, thank you, Sanj. The next question has come in from Elizabeth. Can the system recognize new medications being prescribed, send to user, effectively checking current medications against letter list?
No, it can't do that. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. The tooling, again, the strength of the tooling is getting it out of the nodding folder against the patient record, validating it with respect to the name, the DOB, the postcode, etc. of the patient into the rightful folder, department, correct organization, event date, and that's its USP. It's getting and doing that administrative piece with respect to then working out, okay, what do I need to triaging that letter? Again, what clients normally do, they put it to a generic coding team or to a generic folder, to the ones that that you're going to need to action, and then take it from there. This piece, the tooling is purely about getting it out of the nodding folder against the patient record in sort of record real time.
Thanks, Sanj. And I believe that will be the same answer to Sudhakar. Does it do read codes? Does the system do read codes?
No, it doesn't. That's the triaging you're on.
And that's the line, and that's I think where we started at the beginning. You still need humans to do that. There's a couple of tools out there which will hazard a guess. They're extremely expensive. They are 10 to 15 times the price of this tool, but they still give it to a person. So do they actually save time? Not really, in our opinion. This tool is there to do everything else and ensure that you see what you need to. So trial periods, no, unfortunately we don't offer trial periods. There's configuration work, and our tools are not new tools anymore. Right, so just before we wrap up, I'll do, please pop more questions in the chat. I'm just going to share my screen again. Sandra, you keep an eye if there's any questions and let me know. I'm going to do a super fast summary of the two tools again. First one we went through is our pathology automation platform for EMIS and SystmOne. Estimated time savings for this are up to 30 minutes a day for each clinician. Obviously, there's to free clinical capacity in addition to enforcing rules and standardizing approach if you wish to do that to ensure that nothing is missed. It looks after all your normal results, but obviously some normal results come through, they don't need further investigation. Other normal results come through, and there are a lot, which despite them being normal, you need to do additional checks on the patient to see whether you want to continue doing your exploratory work on that patient, and this ensures none of those slip through the net, in addition to saving you opening path reports and then having to log into the patient record, look things up, go back for thousands and thousands of tests a year. This tool will do that for you, so essentially you will only see the tests that you need to see, and unbelievably an 8,500 list on average gets just under 62,500 path tests a year. So the bigger you are, the more you get, but again, the more people you have processing them. So considerable capacity saving, and estimated clinical cost allocation is about £50,000 a year. This tool's retailing from 8,500 list for about 3,738. Range control, agree with the lab, supersede the lab, compare tests against previous test results, check the patient record for medication, health conditions, read the path report for warnings or keywords, supersede the lab, set different tolerances and thresholds for age and gender, and you can omit patients as well. Super quick to configure. We do that with you. Over 200 different path tests now running through our platform with different clients across the UK. They're the numbers again, which are staggering. Again, people just work and they don't realize how much time they're actually spending on things when you tot it up every day. This is a medical device, DCBO 129, delivered from DTAC, DPIA, NHS Cloud. We were a Health Innovation Launchpad graduate as well several years ago. Costings are there. That's the first one. We'll share these decks again afterwards. And if I then move to our Docman tool, principle behind this Docman tool, make sure you see the letters that you need to, you only see the letters that you need to see. You're getting, that 8,500 list is getting 40,000 of them a year, just under, on average. All of those are having to be read by someone or people, coded into complete the Docman template, letter type, name coded and filed manually. It's bonkers. Massively time consuming, dependent on staff shortages. Lots of practices have big waiting lists and queues and stuff of unfiled letters. This will ensure all of those are dealt with. All of our tooling works 7 days a week. It's going to pick up all the letters, it's going to validate all the letters, it's going to file all the letters. All the ones you don't need to see will be filed, and all the ones you do want to see will be put through whatever template, task, folder, or sent to whatever GP you want to, using Docman functionality. It's essentially a Docman super user. Doesn't get bored, doesn't complain, just works. It works nights and weekends as well. So that's a summary. Oh, 2 more questions come in. Thanks. So let me just let me stop sharing for a moment and move back to the questions.
Should I? I'll pick up the I'll pick up the top one. Does the tool read ambulance letters and district nurse letters that may require more urgent action? Very much so. So we would train the letters with respect to those particular letter types and ensure that they're signposted to create for an urgent task. So yes. Next one is
right, next one. How many practices are currently using your device for pathology results and for letters? We've onboarded 10 or 15 new practices this week. We're growing super quick. We're probably 200-300 plus practices now, and a lot of those practices have 2 products. We did have another product that we work with, which we're so busy at the moment, we're holding off at the moment. So some of those practices actually have three products. We're not a new business anymore. Great. So any more questions, please pop them in the chat. In this environment, we find they're the best way for you to validate how you feel about essentially what you're hearing, and you've got an open forum here. We've covered a lot today. I can see people are getting a few thank yous and for joining and stuff. Okay. Question from Hanny. What if the system cannot make heads or tails of the letter? It will be left and it will be put to an exception folder, which will monitor. So everything will have an action off the back of it. And if that action is, I have no idea what this is, it will be put into a folder, and then your team will check that folder for any letters that pop in there. And that may actually, and well, that will also include that if you've taught it to recognize, or we've taught it to recognize a particular letter type, let's say the hospital changes that format of that letter. MyBotGP is not going to hazard a guess and file, and make an action if it doesn't understand, if it hasn't seen that letter. So those will also be popped in. We run weekly training, which you're welcome to join in. Client trainings doesn't take long, so that letter can be added back in, or you can ask us to do it and we'll pop it in. So then the second time it sees that letter, it will say, oh, yep, I know what to do with that, and it will action it for you. Okay, so any more questions before we round off for today? No? Okay, well, thank you to everybody for joining. Thanks, Sanj, for your help.
Thank you.
What we will do is we will take this recording, we will get it onto our website, and then we will distribute it to everybody with the decks and the brochures. And if you'd like any more information, please let us know. I think you should all have Deandra's email. We'll get back on the prices for the two practices that asked about costings. We can send those to you directly. Yeah, and we hope to see you again. Thank you.